Welcome to our deep dive, into how digital technologies are transforming the sports world.
Yeah.
We've got some fascinating sources here,
Mm.
articles on business strategy and platform economics, even cutting-edge research on sports management and digital innovation.
Yeah.
It's like a playbook for understanding how technology is changing,
Right.
not just the game on the field,
Hmm.
but the entire sports industry.
It really is.
What's really interesting is how these sources
Yeah.
connect these seemingly different areas.
Right.
We'll be looking at big picture business trends and then diving into the specific ways digital tools are impacting athletes, coaches, and of course the fans.
Absolutely.
Our mission today
Yeah.
is to understand how this digital wave is reshaping the very definition of sports.
I like that.
We're not just talking about cool gadgets,
Right.
but a fundamental shift in how sports are organized, experienced, and even what it means to be an athlete in this new landscape.
Yeah. One of the biggest shifts we see is this move from pipelines to platforms.
Pipelines to platform.
Yeah.
You might be wondering, what does that even mean?
Right.
I'm picturing oil pipelines versus a stage platform.
Okay.
Maybe we need a sports analogy here.
Okay, so think of it this way.
Okay.
Traditional businesses, including those in sports, operated like a pipeline.
Okay.
They controlled everything from creation to delivery.
Mm-hmm.
Take a sporting goods company.
Okay.
They design, manufacture, and sell their gear directly to consumers.
Okay.
It's a linear process.
Mm.
But now we're seeing this rise in platforms.
So how does a platform change the game?
Platforms focus on connecting different groups and facilitating interactions.
Okay.
Instead of controlling every step,
Mm-hmm.
they create an environment where others can interact and create value.
Okay.
Think about the App Store.
Okay.
Apple provides the platform, but app developers create the content, and iPhone users consume it.
Yeah,
They're not controlling the whole process. They're orchestrating it.
that makes sense.
Right.
So instead of a one-way street, it's more like a bustling marketplace where everyone can participate.
Exactly. And the interesting thing is platforms are winning.
Oh?
Even those traditional pipeline businesses are having to adapt.
Interesting.
We see companies like Nike with its personalized training app and the NBA with its streaming platform embracing this shift.
It's like the old saying, if you can't beat 'em, join 'em.
Right.
But this shift from pipelines to platforms isn't just a change in business model, is it?
Yeah.
It's something deeper.
It is.
One of our sources, a Harvard Business Review article,
Okay.
breaks it down into 3 key shifts.
Mhm.
First, instead of controlling resources, businesses need to learn to orchestrate them.
Okay.
Think Uber. They don't own cars,
Right.
but they manage a network of drivers.
Exactly.
That's a huge mindset shift.
Yeah.
It's less about owning assets and more about building and managing connections.
Yeah.
What's the second shift?
The second shift is a move from internal optimization to external interaction.
Yeah.
Success depends on fostering engagement between producers and consumers on the platform.
Uh-huh.
The more interactions, the better.
Yeah.
It's about creating a thriving ecosystem.
Okay, so it's not just about having the best product, it's about building a community around it.
Exactly.
And that leads to the third shift, right?
Right.
We shift from focusing on individual customer value to ecosystem value.
Yeah.
The focus becomes the overall health and growth of the network.
Exactly.
It's like moving from focusing on individual player stats to understanding how everyone contributes to the team's success.
That's a great analogy.
You mentioned you're a big soccer fan, right?
I am.
Think about a platform that connects fans with amateur soccer leagues in their area.
Okay.
The more players, teams, and fans on the platform, the more valuable it becomes for everyone involved.
Absolutely. And it highlights another crucial concept we see across these sources.
Yeah.
Network effects.
Network effects. This sounds familiar.
Okay.
Can you break it down for me?
Yeah. So network effects essentially mean that the more participants a platform has,
Mm-hmm.
the more valuable it becomes for everyone.
Yeah.
It's got a snowball effect.
Yeah.
You know, the industrial age was all about economies of scale.
Mm-hmm.
The more you produced, the cheaper it got.
Right.
But the digital age is about the power of the network.
This is fascinating.
Yeah.
It seems counterintuitive that getting bigger actually makes you better.
It is.
Can you unpack that for me, especially in a way that relates to, let's say, video games?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Let's take the example of a platform like Twitch.
Okay.
As more users join, they create more content, more streams, more interactions,
Mm-hmm.
which in turn attracts even more users seeking that specific gaming community and that live interaction.
Right.
The platform becomes the go-to place for video game streaming,
Yeah.
making it more valuable for everyone involved.
Yeah.
It's a self-reinforcing cycle.
So it's not just about getting bigger, it's about getting better because you're bigger. And this network effect applies to the world of sports in some interesting ways, doesn't it?
Absolutely. We'll dive deeper into that after a quick break.
We were just talking about these network effects and
Yeah.
how they create this snowball effect of value.
Yeah.
But I imagine there are some downsides to this as well, right?
There are, and they're particularly relevant when we talk about the impact of digital technologies
Yeah.
on the sports landscape itself.
Okay.
One potential issue is the possibility of a winner-takes-all scenario.
Winner takes all.
Yeah,
That sounds intense.
it can be.
How would that play out in the world of sports?
Imagine a single platform becomes so dominant that it controls access to fans' data and even revenue streams for a particular sport.
Wow.
This could stifle competition and innovation,
Right.
leaving athletes and smaller organizations at the mercy of this one powerful platform.
So instead of a level playing field,
Yeah,
you have a single platform calling all the shots.
right.
That raises some concerns about fairness and balance.
Absolutely. One of our sources, an article by Henfredson, talked about this concept of platformization,
Okay.
where platforms extend their reach beyond their initial focus
Right.
and begin to impact entire industries.
They're not just changing the game, they're changing the whole playing field.
Exactly.
Are there any real-world examples of this?
We've already seen this happen with companies like Facebook,
Yeah.
expanding from social networking to messaging commerce and more.
Right.
And we're seeing similar trends in the sports world with platforms like ESPN and DAZN expanding their reach and influence.
This makes me think of the challenges musicians face on streaming platforms.
Mm.
They need to be on those platforms to reach their fans, but they often have very little leverage when it comes to things like royalties and control over their content.
Yeah, it's a similar dynamic.
Yeah.
And it highlights the precarious position of many content creators and cultural producers in this digital age.
Right.
They need these platforms to reach their audience,
Mm.
but they also face the risk of being exploited or marginalized by these very platforms.
This is starting to feel like a bit of a tightrope walk.
It is.
So how do we navigate this?
Right.
How do we ensure a more balanced and equitable landscape in the digital world of sports?
I think it starts with awareness.
Okay.
We need to understand how these network effects and platform dynamics work
Mm-hmm.
and be mindful of the potential risks.
It sounds like we can't just be passive consumers letting the tech giants dictate the terms of the game.
You got it.
We need to be critical thinkers about platform power and its potential impact.
Exactly.
We need to support diverse platforms and content creators
Mhm.
and encourage innovation outside the confines of the dominant players.
Absolutely.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
If we only support the biggest players, we're essentially handing them even more power.
Right.
What about the role of regulation?
Mhm.
Does it have a place in this evolving landscape?
Absolutely. We need smart regulation that ensures fair competition, protects the interests of athletes and fans, and prevents platforms from stifling innovation or exploiting creators.
Right.
It's a complex challenge,
Mm-hmm.
but one that we need to address proactively.
You mentioned earlier that digital technologies are not just changing the business of sports.
Yeah.
They're actually changing the games themselves.
That's right. One of our sources, a research paper by Gopeler, Standard, and Zhao,
Okay.
introduced this concept of physical-digital hybrid sport.
Hybrid sports.
Yeah.
You're not talking about cyborgs playing basketball, are you?
Not quite yet, though. That's a fascinating thought.
Okay.
Hybrid sport is about the fusion of physical and digital components,
Okay.
creating new experiences and opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Digital isn't replacing physical sport. It's changing it in fundamental ways.
So how exactly are digital technologies changing the way sports are played and experienced?
The paper breaks it down into 4 core components of sports as an institution:
Okay.
organizational, technological, symbolic, and educational.
Right.
And digital technologies are impacting each of these areas.
Okay, let's unpack that.
Okay.
What's happening on the organizational side of things?
We're seeing the emergence of new stakeholders in the sports ecosystem,
Okay.
such as data providers, streaming services, and esports organizations.
Right.
This creates a more complex and dynamic landscape with new power dynamics at play.
It's like the traditional organizational structure of sports is being disrupted and reshaped by these digital forces.
Exactly. And on the technological front, we see data analytics transforming performance enhancement scouting and training.
Right.
Virtual and augmented reality are creating incredible new training opportunities.
It's fascinating to see how data is becoming such a powerful tool in sports.
It is.
You mentioned you're a runner.
I am.
Are you using any data-driven tools to improve your performance?
I do.
Oh, really?
I use a GPS watch to track my runs and a heart rate monitor to understand my effort levels.
Okay.
And I'm starting to experiment with some AI-powered coaching apps that analyze my running form and suggest personalized training plans.
Wow.
It's amazing how technology is empowering athletes to take control of their training and push their limits.
So it's not just about watching the game anymore. It's about analyzing it, dissecting it, and using that information to improve.
Absolutely.
What about the symbolic component?
Yeah.
How are the rituals and displays of sport evolving in the digital age?
Think about all the ways athletes and teams interact with fans online.
Yeah.
They're managing their digital identities, sharing behind-the-scenes content, and engaging in real-time conversations.
Yeah.
And fans are playing an active role too, creating memes, sharing reactions, and building online communities.
Social media has definitely changed how we experience and talk about sports.
Right.
It's almost like a collective commentary running alongside the actual events.
Exactly. And this blurring of the lines between the physical and digital, between the athlete and the fan, is reshaping the symbolic landscape of sports.
And finally, how are digital technologies impacting the educational aspect of sports?
We're seeing an explosion of online resources, personalized training programs, and data-driven coaching tools. Athletes have access to a wealth of information and expert guidance at their fingertips.
It seems like digital tools are empowering athletes at every level, from beginners to professionals.
Yeah.
What stands out to you about the impact of digital on the education side of sports?
What fascinates me is the potential for democratization.
Okay.
Digital tools can make high-quality training and coaching accessible to people who might not have had those opportunities before.
Right.
Imagine a young athlete in a remote village who can now access world-class coaching through an app.
Yeah.
That's incredibly powerful.
It's like technology is breaking down barriers and creating a more level playing field for aspiring athletes.
Exact.
But it's also raising some important questions about the future of sports.
Yeah.
How do we navigate this evolving landscape?
That's what we'll explore next, right after a quick break.
We've been talking about how digital technologies are reshaping every aspect of sports, from the business side to the games themselves.
Yeah.
It's like we're witnessing the birth of a new era in sports.
It really is.
And one of the most intriguing questions is, what does the future hold?
Right.
What will sports even mean in a world where physical and digital realities are increasingly intertwined?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm picturing some kind of futuristic sports landscape, maybe with robots competing in the Olympics,
Okay.
or virtual reality leagues where anyone can play from their living room. Is that where we're headed?
Those are definitely possibilities, but I think the evolution of sports will likely be more nuanced than that.
Okay.
We might see new sports emerge that seamlessly blend the physical and digital in ways we can't even imagine yet.
It's like the lines between what's real and what's virtual are blurring.
Exactly.
What kind of hybrid sports could we see in the future?
Imagine a sport that combines physical skill with strategic decision-making in a virtual environment.
Okay.
Players might be competing in a real-world obstacle course,
Okay.
while simultaneously managing resources and making tactical choices within a virtual overlay.
Interesting.
It would test both their physical and mental agility.
That sounds incredible.
Yeah.
It's like taking the best of both worlds and creating something entirely new.
Right, and this fusion of the physical and digital could lead to entirely new forms of competition and entertainment.
This makes me think of esports.
Uh-huh.
It's already a massive industry, but will we see esports becoming even more mainstream, maybe even challenging traditional notions of athleticism?
It's certainly a possibility as technology advances and virtual reality becomes more immersive.
Right.
The lines between esports and traditional sports might continue to blur.
Yeah.
We might see a future where athletes are celebrated for their physical and cognitive skills, whether they're competing on a physical field or in a virtual arena.
It's like the definition of athlete itself is evolving.
Precisely. And this evolution will likely extend to the fan experience as well.
In what way?
Imagine being able to watch a game from multiple angles, access real-time data and insights,
Yeah.
and even interact with the athletes and other fans in a virtual environment.
It's like the passive spectator experience is transforming into something much more interactive and immersive.
Exactly. Fans might even be able to influence the game in real time, adding a whole new dimension to sports fandom.
Wow, that's a lot to take in.
It is.
It seems like the future of sports is wide open with possibilities.
Yeah.
But it's also a bit daunting to think about all the challenges and uncertainties that come with such a profound transformation.
It's true, as we navigate this evolving landscape,
Right.
it's crucial to consider the ethical implications,
Mm-hmm.
ensure fairness and accessibility, and foster a balanced ecosystem where both physical and digital elements can thrive.
This has been an incredibly insightful deep dive.
It has been.
We've explored the impact of digital technologies on the sports industry from multiple angles, and it's clear that we're just at the beginning of this transformative journey.
We really are just at the beginning.
And as we wrap up, we'd love to hear from you, the listener.
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts on the future of sports? What excites you and what concerns you? What role do you see yourself playing in shaping this evolving landscape? So keep thinking, keep questioning, and keep exploring. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.